Hello and welcome back to Stop, Look, and Listen with Samantha. I can't really see you today, but that's pretty much on point because what I'm talking about is unconscious bias. So what is unconscious bias? I'm going to break it down for you. All right, so the word unconscious, I think a lot of us know when we're sleeping, we're unconscious, right? Which means that we really don't realize or understand what's going on. It's something that we may be doing that we're literally blind to, okay? We don't realize we're doing it. It's not intentional. The other thing is bias. So what is bias? Bias is basically being in favor or against something because of past mental experiences. So let's say you had a bad experience swimming and maybe you shut yourself off from that. You're never going to swim again. You're going to avoid the water. That's a bias towards the water. Let's say you had a bad experience with a group of people, say maybe the police, you may avoid the police and have some sort of a bias against them, okay? So why do we do it, right? When our brain makes connections, it's taught to make shortcuts. So you ever take a look at one of those pieces of paper where you read it and all the letters are jumbled up, but the first and the last letter are the same and you can still read it for some reason? It's because your brain is keyed to make shortcuts, to help you make decisions, to help you get places faster, to help you basically figure out what you're gonna do, okay? So one of the things that's a downside of those mental shortcuts is that you may be taking some of those limited experiences that you had, let's say even though you only had one bad experience swimming, you use that instead of having, 20 experiences swimming and the other positive experience outweigh that, right? So let's talk about different types of unconscious bias, right, as it relates to people, because this is really what I want to talk about today, because this is where we limit ourselves in our relationships and make snap judgments about people and really don't live up to the fullest potential that we could in our relationships and who we hang out with and who we decide to talk to. All right, so the first thing is affinity bias. Okay, so affinity bias, I think we're all guilty of this. You find someone that's like you and you're like, yeah, they're just like me. They think the same way. We went to the same school. We worked at the same place. You have these commonalities that make you feel closer to the person, therefore make you favor them in a certain way. Another thing is a halo effect, right? So let's say someone did something really nice for you one time. You're like, oh my God, I love that person. They can do no wrong, even though they might do, they might not be exactly who you thought they were. It's that one thing that's kind of outweighing the rest in your mind. They have essentially a halo around their head and they can do no wrong. So you have a bias towards them in a positive way. The opposite of that is the horns effect. Okay, so maybe let's say you ran into somebody on a really bad day and they were hungry or hangry or whatever, they gave you an attitude and that is clicked in your head. Now that's the only thing you think of. Somebody says their name, you're like, oh yeah, that negative experience comes up. That gives you a horns effect that automatically kind of gives you some sort of a thought to stay away from them. Another type is attribution. Okay, so attribution is achievement based. So you might have heard of like education bias, or someone thinking that, the level of schooling that someone has makes them more intelligent, maybe not thinking about experiences that they had, life experiences, or even, just having a new point of view, bringing them into someone. Sometimes a baby can recognize things that we don't even see, a little kid, right? So think about it like that. Like sometimes in society, we have these ideas of people with a certain status or a certain level of job or a certain level of education or somehow higher up on the ladder, but there is no ladder. Nobody's better than anybody else, okay? So just one thing to look out for. If you're thinking that way, it might be something that you want to open your eyes to. And the last one is confirmation bias. Okay, so those are preconceived opinions. And sometimes those might be put on you from things that people are saying around you, from the media or things like that. This is like racism, sexism, okay, just these words and sayings that you hear repeated. She shoots like a girl. It's this preconceived notion. Maybe you see a black person walking down the street and you lock your car doors, okay? You're not meaning to do it, but unconsciously you have something in your head that was probably taught to you generations ago, taught to your parents generations ago, and here you are carrying it out and not even realizing what it is that you're doing. So again, unconscious is unconscious. If you're doing any of these things, it does not make you a bad person. But once you decide to take the blindfold off, the world that you see and the opportunities that you can have will absolutely amaze you. So thank you for watching, and I believe in you.